Well, it's easy to say, easy to see how listeners were reacting yesterday to my conversation with Jared Halpern, Fox News Radio, when he was revealing the results of the latest Fox poll that has Biden up on Trump nationwide. But I would also note that later in the day, Emerson College came out with a series of battleground polls that had Trump basically leading in all of the key battleground states that he needs to win the presidency back. So where are we? As you heard our friend Chris Turner say, we're a week out from Trump-Biden debate. And where are we politically? Let's talk this over with political analyst and commentator for Young Voices. Donald Kimball is on my Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line this morning. And Donald, welcome to WHO Radio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So all kinds of numbers all over the place. My listeners reacting in shock, Donald, yesterday to the Fox News poll that had Biden up over Trump, but then we had battleground polls later in the day that showed Trump doing very well in states like Wisconsin. So what's your read on what the political landscape is right now?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to consider. The first is that most of the polls are still within a margin of error, right? And while this may seem neutral, we don't really know, I would argue, not even as a huge Trump fan, that this is probably very good for Trump. Because when we look back at what's happened recently, the most notable piece of news, of course, is his conviction. And so from a certain point of view, this, besides from potentially the sentencing week, could be his most negative press week in the election cycle. And clearly that hasn't done a lot to bump his numbers down on the polling front. So let's, take the Fox News poll as absolute truth, then maybe he dropped by 2 or 3 points. This news is only going to get older from here out, and something like the debate could cause all of the momentum drop from that conviction to go back into Trump's favor.
That's a great point, Donald. What do you think, what do the candidates have to do in the debate? I mean, I really do think that this debate between Trump and Biden, I think everybody's interested in it. I think they're interested in it for different reasons as to what might happen in the debate. But what do the candidates need to do in such a close race?
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I think what the Biden voters really need Biden to do is to maintain some sort of semblance of cognizance.
I know. You're right on, man.
He needs to show that he actually is a functioning human, which is, easier said than done if you look at a lot of the clips recently. And I think, frankly, what Trump needs to do is he needs to come out with a lot of energy. One of the interesting things is you look at the debate performances that Trump had between 2016 and 2020. And in 2016, he was a lot more lively, a lot more energized. In 2020, he felt a lot more mellow. And, you could argue this was the presidency having worn him down. Maybe he didn't have the same incentives, or maybe he is getting older. But I do think that looking at his campaign stops this time around, he seems a little closer to 2016. That being said, I think they both really need to go after the independent voter right now who is really, sitting with Kennedy or someone else. And RFK Jr. really right now has sort of this middle undecided voter block that doesn't really like either party. As we get closer to the election, I imagine those voters are going to peel away from Kennedy, as typically we see with third-party candidates. And so Trump and Biden both kind of need to make their appeals to that voter to say, look, I know that neither of us are great in your view, but here's why the other guy is totally unacceptable.
Donald Kimball on News Radio 1040 WHO. The other thing, Donald, that I took away from the Fox poll, there's a lot of issues we talk about on this show every day, but the economy is still king in the voters' minds. That's what I saw. What do you think?
I agree. And, the poll was indicating that people are seemingly a little bullish on the economy. I don't know how true that is overall. Yeah. I think right now a lot of people recognize that the economy is extremely propped up. The Federal Reserve has not increased interest rates for about a year, which seems a little suspicious, like they're trying to continue a narrative of sort of false positivity. The S&P 500 is only being afloat by about the top 6 or 7 stocks. And, even as inflation rates have slowed down, we're still sitting with all of that inflation that we built up over the past few years. And so people go to the grocery store, they still see high prices. They try to get a job. And, the job market, while there are jobs available, a lot of them are going to experienced, qualified workers who already have jobs. and it's a lot harder to get into the entry-level job market right now. So I think there's a reality that people are feeling on the ground, that even while the economy may look polished and a little bit better than before, it might be sitting on a house of cards.
Commentator for Young Voices, Donald Kimball. Donald, thanks very much for joining me this morning. 6:15 at News Radio 1040 WHO.